Vulcan's 4 arms moved across the holographic display with practiced precision. Numbers scrolled past his triple eyes as he checked the survey data for the third time that morning. Something was wrong. In his 40 years as senior cartographer at the Galactic Cartography Institute, he had never seen anything like this. The human territory on the map showed 47 star systems clustered along the edge of what the galaxy called the Orion Spur. It was a modest holding, nothing remarkable. Humans had joined the galactic community only 200 years ago, and they were considered quiet neighbors. They traded, they talked, they kept to themselves mostly. Unremarkable in every way, except the numbers didn't match. Vulcan pulled up the survey from 6 months ago and compared it to yesterday's data. The boundary had shifted. Not much. Just 0.003%. Any junior cartographer would have dismissed it as sensor drift or calibration error. Vulcan had dismissed it himself at first. But then he had checked the historical data going back 5 years. The pattern was unmistakable. Human space was expanding. Slowly, steadily, like water seeping through cracks in stone. He called up the expansion projections. Every species in the galaxy expanded, of course. New colonies, new territories, new systems claimed and registered with the Galactic Council. The mathematics were well understood. You could predict expansion rates based on population growth, ship production, and economic capacity. Humans were exceeding their projections. Not by much, but consistently. Every single measurement period for the past 5 years, Vulcan felt the small hairs along his neck ridge stand up. He told himself he was being foolish. 0.003% was nothing. Statistical noise, and yet ... He drafted a report and sent it to the Galactic Council offices. He expected it to disappear into the bureaucratic void, to be filed away and forgotten. Instead, he received a response within 2 hours. The Council wanted to see him immediately. The Council chambers on Axis Prime were designed to accommodate every major species in the galaxy. The ceiling stretched 30 meters high to accommodate the floating air. The floor had both dry and aquatic sections for the water-breathing mouth. Temperature zones ranged from freezing to tropical. It was a monument to diversity and cooperation. Today, it felt tense. Arbiter Jaws presided over the emergency session. The ancient silicon-based being had witnessed the rise and fall of a dozen galactic civilizations. Nothing surprised Josie anymore. The fact that Joss had called this session at all made Vulcan's stomach churn. Cartographer Vulcan Joss's voice rumbled like grinding rocks. Present your findings. Vulcan activated his data slate. The holographic projection filled the center of the chamber, showing the galactic map with human territory highlighted in blue. Honored council members, human territorial boundaries have been expanding at a rate 0.003% above projected models for the past 5 standard years. Silence filled the chamber. .0-0-3%. Ambassador Thoric of the Crudish Empire stood, his scaled face showing confusion. You called an emergency session for a rounding error. I called this session, Josie interrupted, because 3 member species reported similar concerns this morning. The Kritish are not among them, which suggests you have not been paying attention to your border regions. Thoric sat down, looking uncomfortable. A hologram flickered to life. Ambassador Sarath of the Jakari appeared, transmitting from her homeworld. We have lost contact with mining colony ZH. It sits 12 light years from the nearest human system. We assumed equipment failure. Now I am not certain. Another hologram appeared. Commander Nix of the Metodian Defense Fleet. 2 of our deep space monitoring stations have gone silent in sectors adjacent to human space, both within the last 4 months. The Aryan representative, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline matrix, spoke in chiming tones. Our trade data shows unusual patterns. Human commercial vessels have been purchasing mining rights, agricultural stations, and refueling depots throughout the border regions. Individual transactions, nothing alarming, but the volume over 5 years is ... significant. Vulcan felt vindicated and terrified at the same time. This was bigger than sensor drift. Where is the human representative? Joss asked. Ambassador Keiko Tanaka entered the chamber. She was small by galactic standards, but she walked with quiet confidence. Her dark eyes scanned the assembled species with calm assessment. Arbiter Joss council members, I received word this session concerns humanity. How may we address your concerns? Goss gestured to the holographic map. Ambassador, your territory is expanding faster than your reported colonization efforts would indicate. Outposts near human space are going offline. Human commercial interests are purchasing property throughout the border regions. The council requires an explanation. Tanaka looked at the map carefully. Velkthan watched her face. She seemed genuinely puzzled. Arbiter Humanity files all colony registrations through proper channels. We have established 3 new systems in the past 5 years, all documented and approved. As for commercial purchases, we operate within free market principles. If property is for sale, we buy it. Is this not standard practice? 3 systems do not account for the territorial expansion shown here, Velkthan said, surprised by his own boldness. Tanaka turned to look at him directly. Then perhaps your measurements are detecting something other than territorial expansion. Cartographer, I assure you, Earth has not authorized any undocumented colonies. The way she said Earth made Velkthan pause. Not humanity or we, but specifically Earth. As if Earth was only part of the picture, Jaws seemed to catch the same detail. Ambassador, does Earth speak for all human interests? Tanaka smiled. It was not a threatening expression, but something about it made Velkthan deeply uneasy. Earth speaks for Earth, Arbiter. We have a federal system. Our colonies are largely autonomous within agreed frameworks. If you have concerns about specific human activities, I will need specific locations and details to investigate properly. It was a perfectly reasonable answer. It was also, Velkthan realized, not really an answer at all. Joss dismissed the session but formed an investigation committee. Velkthan found himself appointed as chief analyst. A multi-species research vessel would be dispatched to the border regions to investigate firsthand. As the chamber emptied, Velkthan noticed Ambassador Tanaka studying the holographic map. She didn't look worried. She looked like someone doing mental calculations, adding up numbers that only she could see. That was when Velkthan understood. Whatever was happening in human space, it wasn't a secret. It was something the humans themselves might not fully realize they were doing, and that, somehow, was even more unsettling. The research vessel Concordance was designed for diplomatic missions, not mystery solving. Its corridors were wide and accommodating. Its crew quarters suited for 7 different environmental needs. Its conference rooms equipped with translation technology that could handle 42 languages simultaneously. It was a ship built for talking, not fighting. Velkthan stood in the observation deck, watching the stars shift as they approached the border regions. Behind him, the investigation team argued about their approach. They had been arguing for 3 days straight. We should demand access to human colonial records, Ambassador Thoric insisted, his scales flushing orange with agitation. Full disclosure, complete transparency, and if they refuse, what then? Dr. Marcus Webb, the human liaison assigned to the mission, asked calmly, "You'll file a complaint, send a strongly worded letter." Webb was tall for a human, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been a colonial administrator before joining diplomatic service, and he carried himself with the patient weariness of someone who had spent decades dealing with bureaucracy. Velkthan liked him, despite his current frustration. "This is serious," Sereth of the JCRE said, her voice sharp. "My people have lost a colony. We need answers, not deflection." "You'll get answers," Webb said, "but probably not the ones you expect." The Concordance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the coordinates of the silent Zhikari mining colony. What they found made everyone stop arguing. The colony was gone. Not destroyed, not abandoned in panic, gone. The installation foundations remained clean-cut and precise. The landing pads were intact but empty. The storage facilities had been carefully dismantled, every bolt and panel removed. Even the communications array had been taken apart and carried away. Sereth stared at the scans in disbelief. "This is impossible. That facility took 40 years to build. You cannot simply take it apart and carry it away." "You can if you have enough time and cargo capacity," Velkthan said quietly, studying the data. "Look at the precision. This was not scavenging or looting. This was methodical deconstruction." They landed and explored the site in environment suits. The colony administrator's office still had furniture, but the computers were gone. The residential blocks were empty but clean. In what had been the main warehouse, they found something odd. A data chip, left deliberately on a pedestal that had been specifically constructed to hold it. Webb picked it up and plugged it into his portable reader. His expression shifted as he read. "What does it say?" Sarath demanded. Webb looked up. "It's a bill of sale. Dated 4 months ago. The Jkari Colonial Administration sold the entire facility, including mineral rights, to the Frontier Development Corporation. Payment for billion credits, Galactic Standard. The Jkari workers were offered relocation packages or employment with the new owners. 93% chose relocation." Sarath's face turned dark purple. "That is impossible. I would know if we sold a colony, would you? Webb asked. How many colonies does ZH have? 200, 300. How often does the central government review commercial transactions by autonomous colonial administrations? The silence that followed was damning. That they investigated for more sites over the next 2 weeks. The pattern repeated. Former JCRA stations, Metodian outposts, even a small Aryan way station. All sold. All to different human commercial entities. All within the past 3 years. The crew gathered in the conference room to compile their findings. Velkthan displayed the data on a large holographic chart. 17 former non-human installations in this sector alone, all purchased legally. Average price, 3 to 6 billion credits each. Total human investment in this border region, approximately 75 billion credits. Where are humans getting this kind of money? Thoric asked. Webb smiled slightly. Where do you think? Trade. Earth exports rare earth elements, human art and culture, pharmaceuticals, and specialized technology. Humanity has trade agreements with 147 species. The human credit is currently the third most stable currency in the galaxy. Velkthan said, surprised. We're aiming for first, Webb said without humor. Give us another 50 years, the Aryan representative chimed in. This is economic conquest. You are buying territory we thought was ours. Was it yours? Webb asked. These installations were commercial operations in unclaimed space. Your species built them, operated them, and then sold them when we offered good prices. Nobody forced anyone to sell. We just made better offers than your own governments did to support them. Velkthan pulled up another chart. But this does not explain the territorial expansion. Even with these purchases, human space should not be growing this quickly. Webb was quiet for a long moment. Cartographer, what do you know about human generation ships? Slower than light colony vessels, outdated technology, used before humanity developed faster than light travel. Correct. Humanity launched approximately 300 generation ships before we met you. They left Earth between 100 and 300 years ago. Most of them are still traveling. The implications crashed over Velkthan like a wave. Still traveling. 2 destinations you chose before first contact. Webb nodded. We scattered them across a 200 light-year radius, wherever we found planets that might support human life. We didn't know you existed. We thought we were alone. Those ships are still reaching their destinations, still establishing colonies. 12 have arrived in the past 5 years. 23 more will arrive in the next decade. How many people on each ship? Sereth asked quietly. Between 20,000 and 100,000. Depends on the ship design. Thoric stood abruptly. You sent millions of humans into unclaimed space without asking permission from anyone. We didn't know we needed permission, Webb said. And besides, we asked Earth's governance for permission, and they gave it. 300 years ago, humanity decided to spread across the stars. That decision doesn't expire just because we later met neighbors. Velkthan felt something cold settle in his chest. This wasn't expansion. This was momentum. The humans had started moving before anyone could tell them to stop, and now they couldn't stop even if they wanted to. Those ships were already in flight, their passengers already committed, their destinations already chosen. Do you understand what this means? Velkthan said. If your ships keep arriving, if your commercial expansion continues, in 500 years humans will be in every corner of the galaxy. Webb met his eyes. Yes, we understand. We've always understood. We're not trying to conquer Yucca, we're just trying to survive. And humanity learned a long time ago that survival means spreading out. It means being in as many places as possible. It means never putting all your eggs in one basket ever again. The conference room fell silent. Outside the viewport, the stars looked different to Velkthan now. Each one might have a human ship heading toward it. Each empty system might soon have human footprints on its worlds. The investigation team had found their answer. Humanity wasn't attacking anyone. They were simply everywhere, all at once. Moving too slowly to stop but too persistently to ignore. And there was absolutely nothing the galaxy could do about it. Lunar Station orbited Earth's moon like a silver crown. It was humanity's showcase. The place where they brought important visitors to show what human civilization could achieve. Velkthan had visited before, but never like this. Never with the weight of galactic attention focused on every word and gesture. The Human Colonial Coordination Office occupied an entire section of the station. The waiting room had walls made of transparent aluminum, offering views of Earth below. Velkthan could see the blue and green planets slowly rotating, clouds swirling across continents. It looked peaceful. Beautiful, nothing like a homeworld of relentless expansion. Director Sarah Chen met them personally. She was a short woman with white hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had been managing human colonial efforts for 30 years, Webb had explained, and before that she had been a colony founder herself. She knew the reality of expansion better than anyone. "Welcome," Chen said, gesturing them into a conference room. "I understand you have concerns about human territorial growth. I've been authorized to provide complete transparency. You'll have access to all our colonial planning archives, population distribution models, and expansion projections. No secrets." Thoric looked suspicious. "Just like that. Full access." Chen smiled. "Ambassador, we have nothing to hide. Our expansion is exactly what it appears to be. The problem is not that we're lying. The problem is that you don't understand how we think about time." She activated a holographic display. It showed the Sol system, Earth at the center, and then expanded outward to show human colonial holdings. 47 systems glowed blue, but then Chen added another layer of data. Dozens of additional points appeared in yellow. "The blue systems are currently occupied human colonies," Chen explained. "The yellow points are colony ships currently in transit, launch dates ranging from 320 years ago to last month, arrival dates ranging from 3 months ago to 200 years from now." Velkthan studied the display. The yellow points formed a vast sphere around Earth, spreading in every direction. "How many ships?" 273 still in flight. "We lost contact with 27 over the centuries. Accidents, equipment failures, who knows, probably dead. The rest are still on course." "Still on course," Sarath repeated. "After 300 years, the ships are built to last. Self-repairing systems, multiple redundancies, closed ecological systems. Each one is essentially a small world unto itself." Chen zoomed in on one of the yellow points. Data scrolled past, showing ship specifications, passenger manifest, destination planet statistics. The ship was called New Shanghai. It had launched 247 years ago. Current population, 73,000 people across 9 generations. None of them had ever seen Earth. None of them had ever met an alien species. They were still flying through the void, approaching a planet they had named New Horizon. "Expected arrival in 43 years. You have people who have spent their entire lives on those ships," the Aryan representative said softly. "Generations born and died between the stars." "Yes," Chen said. "That's the sacrifice our ancestors made. They knew they would never see the destination. They got on those ships anyway, because they believed in tomorrow. They believed humanity needed to spread out, to be in multiple places, to never risk extinction from a single disaster ever again." Velkthan felt something shift in his understanding. "This is about your homeworld." "About Earth," Chen nodded. "In the 21st century, Earth nearly died. Climate change, nuclear weapons, pandemics, ecosystem collapse. We came within a hair's breadth of extinction. Humanity survived, but the lesson was burned into our collective consciousness. Never again. Never all in one place. Never dependent on a single world." She pulled up historical data, images of a devastated Earth, cities underwater, wastelands where forests had been, populations reduced by billions. "This is what Earth looked like 400 years ago. We fixed it, eventually. Took 2 centuries of hard work, but the fear never left us. The certainty that it could happen again." "So you launched the ships," Velkthan said. "We launched the ships. Every resource we could spare went into those colony vessels. We sent them to any planet that might support human life, no matter how marginal. Rocky worlds with thin atmospheres, ice worlds that needed massive ocean worlds with only scattered islands. We didn't care. We just needed to be somewhere else." "Anywhere else?" Chen pulled up another dataset. "And that brings us to the next part you need to understand. Terraforming." The display showed a planet. It looked dead. Gray atmosphere, rocky surface, no visible water. Data indicated it was classified as unsuitable for habitation by galactic standards. "This is Perseverance, as it looked 50 years ago. The Galactic Survey marked it as worthless. Too cold, atmosphere too thin, no magnetic field to speak of. We bought the mineral rights for 200 million credits. Most species thought we were fools." The image changed. The same planet, but transformed. Blue patches of water in the valleys, green spreading across the lowlands, white clouds in a thickening atmosphere. "This is Perseverance today. Population, 400,000, growing at 8% annually. We've been terraforming it for half a century. It'll be fully habitable in another 100 years. We have 43 other worlds like it at various stages of transformation." Thoric stared. "You're taking worlds we deemed worthless and making them valuable." We're taking worlds you didn't want and making them homes, Chen corrected. There's a difference. Webb spoke up. Humanity learned to think in centuries out of necessity. A terraforming project takes 100 to 300 years. A generation ship takes 200 years to reach its destination. By the time our children's children's children see results, the people who started the projects are long dead. But we do it anyway. Well, Sereth asked. Why commit resources to something you'll never see completed? Chen looked at Earth through the view. Because someone has to plant trees whose shade they'll never sit under. Because civilization isn't about one generation. It's about continuity. It's about making sure there's always a tomorrow. Velkthan pulled up his own calculations. At your current rate, with the generation ships still arriving and the terraforming projects maturing, human population will triple in the next century. Your territorial holdings will increase 5-fold in 2 centuries. Conservative estimate, Chen agreed. We're accelerating. As our economy grows, we can support more colonies. As our technology improves, we can terraform faster. As our population increases, we can send out more ships. It's exponential growth, but spread across centuries. This is insane, Thoric said. You're planning to fill the galaxy. We're planning to survive, Chen said firmly. If that means spreading across the galaxy, then yes. We will never again be vulnerable to extinction from a single disaster. Never again will all of humanity be in one place. That's not aggression. That's trauma response. We nearly died once. We will do everything in our power to make sure it never happens again. The room fell silent. Velkthan understood now. This wasn't conquest. This wasn't even really expansion in the traditional sense. This was a species-wide survival instinct, playing out across centuries and light years. Humanity wasn't attacking the galaxy. Humanity was fleeing from the ghost of its own near-death, scattering itself across the stars like seeds on the wind. And the terrifying part was that it worked. Every generation ship that arrived was another foothold. Every terraformed world was another home. Every commercial purchase was another expansion of the network. Slow, patient, inevitable. What do you want from us? Velkthan asked quietly. Chen looked at each of them in turn, understanding. We're not your enemy. We're just trying to live. But we understand this makes you uncomfortable. We're willing to negotiate frameworks, establish communication protocols, coordinate expansion planning. What we won't do is stop. We can't stop. Those ships are already flying. Those colonies are already growing. That momentum is centuries old. And if we demanded you stop anyway, Thoric asked, then we'd have a problem, Webb said. Because you'd be asking us to abandon millions of people already committed to the journey. You'd be asking us to give up our survival strategy. And humanity will not do that. Not for politics. Not for diplomacy. Not for anything. The choice was clear. Accept humanity's expansion or go to war with a species that thought in centuries and planned in generations. A species that had already scattered itself across hundreds of light years and would keep spreading no matter what anyone did. Velkthan looked at Earth again through the viewport. Such a small, blue world to have caused such vast ripples across the galaxy. The Persistence looked like it had been built in another age. Its hull was scarred with micrometeor impacts from centuries of travel. Its design was blocky and functional, lacking the elegant curves of modern faster-than-light vessels. It was a relic, a fossil from humanity's desperate early days of space exploration, and it was still flying. Velkthan had requested this visit specifically. Chen had warned him it would be uncomfortable, but he insisted. He needed to see one of these generation ships with his own eyes. He needed to meet the people who had spent their entire lives traveling between stars, who had never known a world beneath their feet. The Concordance matched velocity with the generation ship, and a diplomatic shuttle carried Webb and 2 security officers across the gap. The docking procedure took 3 hours because the Persistence used outdated connection standards. Everything about this ship was old, maintained through stubbornness and necessity. They were met at the airlock by Captain Amaro, a woman in her 50s with close-cropped grey hair and the kind of lean build that came from a lifetime in artificial gravity. She looked at them with cautious curiosity. Dr. Webb, cartographer welcome aboard the Persistence. I apologize for the primitive conditions. We launched before humanity had contact with other species, so we don't have translation technology. I hope your English is adequate. It is sufficient, Velkthan said, his translator handling the conversion smoothly. Thank you for allowing this visit, Captain. Okonkwo led them through corridors that were clean but worn. Everything had been repaired multiple times. Pipes showed mismatched patches. Floor panels were scratched from centuries of foot traffic. The lighting was uneven, some sections brighter than others where newer fixtures had replaced failed ones. We launched 287 years ago, Okonkwo explained as they walked. Earth was still recovering from the climate wars. Resources were scarce, but the colonial initiative was considered essential. 50,000 people volunteered for the original crew. Current population is 48,312. We lost some to accidents over the years, but our growth has mostly kept pace with the losses. You've never seen Earth, Velk then observed. No one alive on this ship has seen Earth. My great-grandmother was part of the original crew. I'm 7th generation shipborn. Earth is mythology to us. Stories and videos. We know it's real, but it's not real the way this ship is real. They entered a large chamber that served as the ship's central plaza. It was designed to look like a park, with artificial grass and trees grown in carefully maintained soil. Lights overhead simulated a day-night cycle. Children played near a fountain. Adults sat on benches, talking or reading on tablets. It looked almost normal, except for the subtle curve of the walls and the knowledge that this entire scene was contained within a metal tube flying through the void. People stared at Velkthan as they passed. His forearms and triple eyes marked him as unmistakably alien. Many of the children pointed and whispered. Some looked frightened. They've never seen an alien before, Webb said quietly. We received the message about first contact 73 years ago, Okonkwo said. We've been getting regular updates via laser transmission ever since, but receiving videos is different from meeting someone in person. You're the first non-human to ever board this ship. They entered the ship's administration center. Holographic displays showed navigation data, ship system status, and population statistics. Velkthan noticed something odd about one of the displays. You're currently 8.7 light-years from your destination, New Horizon. Estimated arrival in 43 years. Correct, Okonkwo said. But New Horizon is within established Metodian territory. You're going to arrive in someone else's space. Okonkwo smiled tightly. When we launched, there was no Metodian territory. There was no galactic community. There was just empty space and a planet that looked like it might support human life. We've been traveling for nearly 3 centuries toward that world. We're not turning back now. The Metodians may object. Then they can file a complaint with Earth. We're not stopping. The certainty in her voice was absolute. Velkthan realized this was what Chen had meant. These people had committed everything to their destination. Generations had been born, lived, and died for the single purpose of reaching New Horizon. You couldn't negotiate with that kind of commitment. Webb spoke up. How many people on this ship know we're in Metodian space? Everyone over the age of 15, Okonkwo said. We told them as soon as we received the territorial data. There was a lot of discussion. Some people wanted to change course, find a different world. But that would add another 5,200 years to the journey. We voted. 78% chose to continue to New Horizon, even knowing it might cause a diplomatic incident. Dr. Webb, with respect, we don't care about diplomatic incidents. We care about finally getting off this ship. We care about walking on a real planet, breathing real air, seeing a real sky. My children were born here. My grandchildren were born here. My great-grandchildren will be born here unless we reach New Horizon. So yes, we're continuing. The galaxy can adjust. Velkthan pulled up his data slate. I've been researching the other generation ships. 43 others are scheduled to arrive within the next 20 years. 20 of them are heading for systems within established territories of various species. We know, Okonkwo said. We communicate with the other ships when we can. Everyone's in the same situation. We launched before the galaxy existed, as far as we knew. Now we're arriving and finding out we have neighbors. But that doesn't change our destinations. This could cause wars, Velkthan said. Only if the other species make it a war, Okonkwo replied. We're not coming with weapons. We're coming with families, with children, with farmers and engineers and teachers. We're colonists, not conquerors. The difference may not matter to some species. Then some species are going to have to learn to share. They toured more of the ship, the agricultural decks where food was grown in hydroponic systems and carefully tended soil, the manufacturing sections where replacement parts were fabricated from raw materials mined from asteroids they encountered along the way, the education centers where children learned history, science, and the dream of New Horizon. In one classroom, Velkthan watched a teacher show students images of their destination world, rocky continents, deep oceans, an atmosphere rich in oxygen but low in nitrogen. The children stared at the images with wonder and longing. That's going to be your home, the teacher said. Your parents were born on this ship, but you'll set foot on a real planet. You'll be the generation that inherits New Horizon. One child raised her hand. What if the aliens don't want us there? The teacher paused. Then we'll talk to them. We'll negotiate. We'll find a way to share. But we're not turning back. Your ancestors traveled too far, sacrificed too much, for us to quit now. Later, in the captain's private office, Okonkwo showed them the ship's sacred text. It wasn't religious. It was the original mission charter, handwritten by the first captain 287 years ago. We carry Earth's hope, Velkthan read aloud. We journey so that humanity might survive. We will endure any hardship, face any challenge, cross any distance. We will not fail. We will not stop. We will reach our destination, and we will build a new home, so that humanity never again faces extinction. Every captain reads this on their first day, Okonkwo said. Every crew member learns it in school. It's our purpose, our reason for existing. We are not a ship. We are a mission, and that mission does not end until we set foot on New Horizon. Velkthan understood then, truly understood, what the galaxy was facing. Humanity had not sent out colony ships. Humanity had sent out missiles, launched centuries ago, flying through space with unstoppable momentum. Each one carried tens of thousands of people whose entire existence was focused on a single goal. You couldn't reason with that. You couldn't negotiate with that. As they prepared to leave, a young girl approached Velk. She looked about 8 years old in human terms. She held out a drawing she had made, showing the Persistence flying through space with stars all around it. Is Earth really as beautiful as they say? She asked. Velkthan looked at Webb, who nodded permission to answer honestly. Yes, Velkthan said. Earth is very beautiful. I wish I could see it, the girl said. But I'll see New Horizon instead. That's pretty good too, right? Yes, Velkthan said softly. That's pretty good too. As their shuttle returned to the Concordance, Velkthan stared at the generation ship growing smaller in the view. One ship, 48,000 people. One destination, unstoppable. And there were 272 more just like it, scattered across the galaxy, all flying toward their own dreams. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so full. Every member species had sent representatives. Even the reclusive void dwellers, who normally avoided galactic politics, had sent an observer. The question before the council was simple but carried enormous weight. What would they do about humanity? Velkthan sat in the analyst section, watching the debate unfold. He had submitted his complete report 3 weeks ago. 5,000 pages of data, analysis, projections, and conclusions. The summary was stark. Human expansion was not aggression, but it was inevitable and unstoppable. The galaxy could accept it or fight it. There was no middle ground. Arbiter Jorce called the session to order. The ancient being's voice carried across the chamber. We have reviewed cartographer Velkthan's findings. We have heard testimony from species affected by human expansion. We have received Earth's official response. Now we must decide. The motion before us: declare humanity a threat to galactic stability and authorize containment measures. Containment, the diplomatic word for blockade, for enforced borders, for war, if humanity refused to comply. Ambassador Thoric of the Kredish Empire spoke first. The data is clear. Human expansion will continue at an accelerating rate. Within 500 years they will have presence in 30% of the galaxy. This is unacceptable. No single species should hold such territory. We must act now while containment is still possible. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Velkthan felt sick. He had known this was coming, but knowing didn't make it easier. How do you contain a species that has already scattered across 200 light? Commander Nix of the Metodian Defense Fleet stood. Do we intercept their generation ships? Destroy vessels carrying children and families? Block their commercial vessels from trading? Humanity is already integrated into our economies. Containment means war, and war means millions dead. Perhaps billions. Better a war now than submission later, Thoric countered. Once humanity controls a third of the galaxy, what's to stop them from demanding more? We draw the line here, while we still can. Ambassador Tanaka had been sitting quietly throughout the debate. Now she stood, and the chamber fell silent. Honored council members, she began. I understand your fear. I understand why humanity's expansion unsettles you. We think differently. We plan differently. We move differently than you do. But I want to make something absolutely clear. Humanity is not your enemy. Then why do you refuse to stop expanding? Thoric demanded. Because we cannot stop. Not, will not, cannot. Those generation ships are already in flight. We cannot recall them. Those colonies are already growing. We cannot unmake them. Those terraforming projects are already underway. We cannot reverse them. What you're asking is like asking us to stop time itself. Then we will make you stop. Thoric said. Tanaka's expression hardened. No, you won't, and do you know why? Because we've already run the simulations. Every major human colony has run military projections. Do you want to know what we found? She activated a holographic display. It showed fleet movements, casualty estimates, economic costs. A war with humanity would last between 50 and 200 years, depending on how many species joined the fight. Human casualties estimated 6 to 12 billion. Alliance casualties estimated 20 to 40 billion. Economic damage to the galaxy, incalculable. Systems destroyed, hundreds. And at the end of it, after all that death and destruction, humanity would still be scattered across the stars. We're all ready to spread out to destroy it. You could burn every colony we have, and there would still be generation ships arriving. Still be populations growing on worlds you don't even know about yet. The chamber was deathly quiet. We don't want war, Tanaka continued. But if you force it, we will survive it. Because that's what we do. That's what we've always done. We survive, Josh spoke. Then what do you propose, Ambassador? If you will not stop, and we cannot force you to stop, what solution do you offer? Tanaka looked around the chamber. We share. We offer you what we've learned. 300 years of generation ship technology, 200 years of terraforming science, economic models for sustainable growth. We teach you to think in centuries instead of decades. We help you expand, just as we are expanding. You want us to become like you, Sereth said. No, we want you to grow with us, not against us. Look at the galaxy right now. How many habitable planets are occupied? Maybe 8%. How many star systems have any presence at all? Less than 1%. The galaxy is empty. There's room for all of us. Room for humanity and room for every species here. We don't need to fight over territory when there's enough for everyone. For now, Thoric said. But in 1,000 years, 5,000, when the galaxy is full, in 1,000 years, we'll have developed technology to reach other galaxies, Webb said, standing beside Tanaka. In 5,000 years, we might have left this galaxy entirely. The problem you're worried about is so far in the future that the solution doesn't exist yet. But fighting us today, over theoretical problems millennia from now, will only cause real death and suffering. Vulcan found himself standing. He hadn't planned to speak, but the words came out anyway. I have studied human expansion for months now. I have visited their colonies, interviewed their people, analyzed their projections, and I have come to a conclusion that I did not expect. Humanity is not dangerous because they are aggressive. They are dangerous because they are hopeful. All eyes turned to him. Every other species in this chamber plans for stability, Velkthan continued. We want to maintain what we have. We want predictable futures. We want safety. Humanity wants tomorrow to be better than today. They want to see new worlds. They want to build things that will outlast them. They want their children to have more than they had. That is not aggression. That is ambition. And ambition, when sustained across centuries, becomes unstoppable, so we should just accept their conquest. Thoric demanded. It's not conquest, it's growth. And we can grow too if we're willing to think the way they do. To plan in centuries, to invest in futures we won't live to see, or we can fight them, and achieve nothing but death. The debate raged for 6 more hours. Species argued, formed alliances, broke apart, reformed. Through it all, Tanaka stood calm and patient, answering every question, addressing every concern, never wavering. Finally, Joss called for a vote, all in favor of declaring humanity a threat and authorizing containment measures. The chamber filled with light as representatives cast their votes. When the count finished, the result was 47% in favor. Not enough to pass. The motion fails, Joss announced. Ambassador Tanaka, present your alternative proposal. Tanaka activated a prepared document, the Expansion Accords, a framework for coordinated galactic growth. Humanity agrees to share all terraforming technology, generation ship designs, and economic development models with any species that requests them. In exchange, human expansion is recognized as legitimate and will not be interfered with. All species are encouraged to begin their own expansion programs. The galaxy will grow together. Another vote. This one was closer. When the count finished, 53% in favor. The expansion accords are adopted, Joss said, though I note that 3 species voted against and have declared they will not honor this agreement. Velkthan knew what that meant. War was still coming. Not galactic war, but regional conflicts. Some species would never accept humanity's growth, but enough had agreed to make peace possible. The session ended. As the representatives filed out, Velkthan approached Tanaka. Do you really think this will work? He asked. Tanaka looked tired. Honestly, I don't know, but it's better than the alternative. And maybe if other species start expanding too, they'll understand us better. Maybe they'll see what we see, an empty galaxy waiting to be filled with life. 100 years later, Velkthan returned to the Galactic Cartography Institute for the last time. He was ancient now, well past the normal lifespan of his species, kept alive by medical technology he barely understood, but he had wanted to complete one final update to the galactic map before he died. The holographic display filled his office. Human space glowed blue, just as it had a century ago, but it had doubled in size, exactly as the projections predicted, and surrounding it, other territories were expanding too. The JJ Kari had launched their own generation ships. The Metodians had begun terraforming marginal worlds. Even the Kritish, who had voted against the Accords, had quietly started their own colony programs. The galaxy was growing, not just humanity, but everyone. Velkthan updated the cartographic database, but this time, he added a new notation. Instead of marking static borders, he added trajectory vectors, arrows showing the direction and speed of expansion for each species. The map no longer showed where everyone was, it showed where everyone was going. He sat back and looked at his life's work. The galaxy was in motion now, all of it, expanding outward like a slow explosion of life and hope. His last official act was to write a notation in the database. A message for whatever cartographer came after him. The map no longer tracks borders. It tracks momentum. The galaxy is not about territory anymore. It's about tomorrow. The humans taught us that. They reminded us what it means to believe in the future. Velkthan closed his eyes and thought about a little girl on the Persistence, holding up a drawing of her ship, dreaming of a world she had never seen. That girl would be old now, maybe dead, but her children would be walking on New Horizon, breathing real air under a real sky. And somewhere out in the darkness between stars, more ships were flying, more dreamers were sleeping in cold suspension, trusting that tomorrow would come. More colonies were being built on worlds that had been empty since the universe began. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had not conquered it. They had taught it to dream again,